repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a Miele FUTURA classic dishwasher that has the intake drain light and will not fill with water. So this is a really common problem with the Miele dishwashers. It's just due to, here's the intake drain light, it's just due to a faulty inlet valve, and they're great dishwashers, but the inlet valves don't last very long. Everything else does. So to do this repair on the FUTURA Classic, what we're going to do is we'll unplug it. We're going to get some of the water out of the dishwasher because we're going to end up putting it on its side so we can take off the bottom panel. So we're going to unplug it. Just seeing how long these drain line and fill lines are. Sometimes they're so long that you don't have to disconnect them. So we got the screws taken out that we're holding it into the cabinet. Go ahead and pull out the dishwasher. Sometimes you have to lower the legs to do that. And I'm now, we got the triple filter removed. I'm now taking a turkey baster and using it to get the water out of the sump. I just pulled out the one-way valve and just I'm going to shake it, make sure there's nothing caught in there. I'll put that back in, and then I'll use the turkey baster to get all that water out. You could use a towel, would work too. If there's any water left though, when you put it on its side, a lot of it will leak out on the floor. So I'm turning off the water underneath the sink, and I'll turn really strong to the right clockwise to make sure the valves are really off. Then I'll use some pliers to loosen the compression fitting for the fill line, and then I'll just spin that off. Sometimes the fill lines are long enough where you don't have to do that. Today I'll actually be replacing this fill line with one that's similar but has a little bit different fitting to fit onto the new fill valve. You can get these at the hardware store or online. They're really cheap, the fill valves, the fill lines. So I'm just taking out a couple of Torx 15 screws from the front that are holding on the bottom panel. And there's also a couple on the bottom I'll have to take out too. Here's the other one, zip it out. Pulling the dishwasher all the way out now. I'm going to move it to my left and make sure I have a fair amount of extra drain and power cord and fill line, and I'll lay it down to my right so it's laying on its right side. That's going to give me the best approach to getting the new fill valve put in. So now I'm taking out a couple of screws underneath the bottom panel. These are Torx 15. Now I'll lift off the panel. Actually, there's a couple of screws on the front. I have to loosen these two. Then I can lift the panel off, get it out of the way. Usually for Miele dishwashers, this fill valve is located underneath the sink, which is actually pretty easy to get to. But in this instance, on this model, it's located inside the dishwasher. I'm using some diagonal pliers or wire cutters to cut the power wire. And then I'm going to split the power wire right down the middle to separate the two terminals. One's in neutral and one's the hot. When you hook these power wires up to the solenoid of the fill valve, you don't have to do it any certain way. There's no polarity problem. You can put either wire on either terminal. So I'm just separating these by a couple of inches, and then I'll use my wire strippers to strip off about a 1/4 inch of wire of the insulator to expose the conductor, to expose the wire. I'm going to put insulated spade connectors on with a crimping tool. And that's how the power will then go to the new fill valve. So you can get these at the hardware store too, or Amazon. So I'm just going to squeeze in to crimp those on. Get nice and tight. And then I'll do this side also. If you don't have these insulated type of spade connectors, you just have the bare metal ones, you can just cover them with electrical tape when you're done. But the plastic insulated ones are just safer. So squeeze that on nice and tight. And now the power problem is taken care of. Now I'm using the vice grips. You could just use pliers to compress the spring clamp. And I'm going to squeeze it and then move it to my right by about 5 inches. This is the little brass elbow that comes with the new fill valve. I'm going to put some Teflon thread tape around the male side of it. There's 2 different threaded sides, one's skinny, one's big. This is the big one. We want to put the Teflon tape on and wrap it around about 4 times. And then we'll go ahead and screw that into the fill valve. So I'm going to go righty-tighty or clockwise to thread that on. I'm going to keep spinning it until it's really tight. And I want the brass elbow to point out to the right and the yellow plastic elbow or piece of the fill valve to point to the left. So they'd be 180 degrees apart or pointing in opposite directions. Okay, that's on nice and tight. So this is a new fill line. These are pretty cheap. I think this is probably 5 or 6 feet. So I'm going to just use the compression fitting. I don't have to use any tape on this one. I'm just going to screw it on, and then I'll use my pliers to get it nice and tight. Okay, now I'm just using a standard head screwdriver to help break this connection that's holding on to the drain hose. I'll get that out of the way, and then I'm going to grab this little partition piece with my pliers. I'm going to unloosen this part of the clamp, and now I'll use my pliers to disconnect this part of the fill line that goes onto the fill valve. I'll go lefty-loosey, get this nut off, and then I'm going to be, again, using a new fill line, not the one that I'm taking off right now, but it has to be a smaller one to fit onto the new fill valve. Okay, got that off. Oh, that's okay. Something to look at. You can pull the filter out and just look to see how much junk is in there. That doesn't look too bad. That wouldn't stop all the water. But sometimes that's the culprit. It's not the valve, it's just it's so dirty. But usually the valve fails. So I'm using my diagonal pliers or dikes to cut through at about 4 inches out away from the valve to cut the hose off. There we go. There's the old one. I'll grab with my pliers. I'm going to grab this little plastic piece that's holding on to the silver hose. I'm just going to rip that out of there so I can get that hose out of there. There we go. Now I can go ahead and pull this metal hose out. Okay, I'm going to reach around and grab that metal hose, get it out of the cabinet, and then I'll pull it all the way through. Okay, now we're feeding in the new hose, going the opposite direction. This is the one that's hooked up to our new fill valve. All right, I'm going to hook up the fill valve to the hose to bring the water to the dishwasher. Push that in really as far as it'll go, wiggle and push. I use the pliers to squeeze the hose clamp, and I get that up real close to the fill valve to hold on that hose. There we go. And now I can put on the two power connectors. Just making sure I get that hose on really tight. So either wire can go into either spade connector, just get them on there tight. All right, I'm going to get this twisted in so the solenoid is going to face up into the machine, because I don't want this to be sitting down low on the lower panel. I want to get this up higher up into the dishwasher. So if the lower panel drip tray ever got wet, it wouldn't get the solenoid wet. I'll go ahead and close these clamps down on the hoses. Looks good, just double checking all my connections, looks nice. I'll put the bottom panel back on. All right, tighten those two screws. Okay, I put the screws on the front also, tighten those, putting the dishwasher back in, got it back on its feet, pushing it back in the cabinet. Here's the new fill line, and get that compression fitting on there. And I'll get it on there tight with the pliers. Okay, I'm turning on the water all the way lefty-loosey, counterclockwise. Plugged it back in, and now we'll just test it out. So before it was getting intake drain light right away, and you could hear it buzzing, but you didn't get any water coming in. And now it's progressing really good. Put the triple filter back in. dishwasher lined up, got the screws back in to hold it. Here's the old fill valve, and these are kind of expensive, can be as much as $220, but the fill valve we put in today is about $25. So I'm just putting the kick panel back in and line up the little stems here, and then kind of wiggle and push. You may have to push in on the plastic tab with a screwdriver to get it started. Doing a little testing now. So it looks good. The water level should go up to just kissing the bottom of this white plastic filter handle. That's perfect. And we're back to normal, no more intake drain light. We have a happy Miele. Thanks so much for watching our video. We really appreciate you coming to our channel. Please subscribe when you get a chance by pressing the subscribe button and also the bell button so we can send you notifications of any new videos that come along. And we have a new thing here called the applaud button. If you really liked the video, if it was helpful to you, if you can click that, we really appreciate that. It shows your interest in our channel and your support, and can't thank you enough. Feel free to contact me at the email listed below, which is scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com, with any of your questions. And also, if you need to have a FaceTime meeting with me or a Zoom meeting, you can click on one of the links below in the description, and we can set up a 15-minute or 30-minute video conference where we can work on your appliance problem. So thanks again for all your support and for watching the video.